Homeless pulling out a 7-1 in their last game against TBD. I don't think that's anything to scoff at. I think that's been a nice, well, at least a nice lead-in for today.
Yeah, definitely. Homeless have had some good results, mainly that 7-1 on TBD on Border, so we're probably not going to see Border, is my guess, from Onyxian there. If I take a look at some of their stats for Border, it's their auto ban, so it's probably going to be the first one banned by them. It's actually Homeless that bans Border. I honestly have absolutely... No, sorry, that'll be one of the default, as they would have played it last week against TBD. The Consulate and Cafe banned out by Homeless, both good maps for Onyxian, and Coastline and Club banned out by Onyxian. Coastline's their second most banned map, and Club is a very good one for Homeless. This makes sense so far. We end up on Villa, which is a good map for both of these teams. Most recently, we saw a 7-3 from Onyxian over Kanga on this map. Let's take a look at for Homeless. I actually haven't seen them play this in quite... Wow, okay. Just keep scrolling back. I haven't seen them play this in a really long time, not since the 6 Invitational qualifiers. So, wow, cool. I like it.
Yeah, I think like if you look back on Homeless's previous results, right, we see Club, we see Consulate, we see a little bit of Border here or there, but I do think that the last 3 maps that were left in the pool, Cafe, Coastline, and Villa, I don't think it really mattered what map we went to there. Homeless don't have the record to show just yet.
Yeah.
So again, I always want to stress it's the record, right? It's not that they can't play it. It's just that record shows that they haven't played it as frequently.
Yeah, for me, my stats go back pretty far, and I've got 2 plays from Homeless on Villa, and both of them were wins, which is a good sign, but that was quite a while back. One of them was against Kanga, not necessarily against these big hitting teams. So Onyxian on the flip side, they also beat Kanga on Villa recently. That sounds pretty good. Now, Onyxian has, there are a lot more VODs of Onyxian on Villa compared to what we've got from Homeless. So it means that Homeless, which they do have quite a substantial support set of support staff, they've got a manager, a coach, an analyst. Those guys can be breaking down all of Onyxian's VODs and start to talk to these players, say, hey, this is how we're going to be playing this match, this is how your opponent, this is what to expect out of your opponent, and start to devise some strategies out of that.
Yeah, so who have you got right now? First map, Villa, you going Onyxian or you going Homeless?
I think the fact that there are lots of VODs on Onyxian tilts it to the way of Homeless, but I just got to say on paper, I think Onyxian is the better team overall. These guys played against each other recently in the SI qualifiers, and Onyxian won that, but it was a close 2-1 series, so it could go either way.
Okay, beautiful. Let's have a look what everyone at home thought. They're going to go heavily. Well, I don't think that's heavily. I still think that it's very much favoured toward Homeless. And I mean, look, if we're looking at previous results, you've got Onyxian who have versed what would be proposed to be the bottom 4 teams, and then you've got Homeless that have versed the top 4 teams. Yeah. So at the very least, Homeless are getting this out of the way. They're coming off the back of some decent results, some good fighting chances, and this, I could see this going the way of Homeless.
Yeah, it's definitely plausible. I know Homeless also have quite a lot of fans. They've got Stigs, who's the captain of the team. He's quite a prolific streamer locally in ANZ, and he also runs, or they also run, a Twitter page for Homeless, whereas Onyxian, it's just their own Twitters trying to support themselves. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It could go either way.
It certainly could. Well, let's get into map number 1 for tonight's matches. I'm going to head to Villa. Onyxian, they're trying to keep that clean slate, whereas Homeless are trying to find some sort of results, trying to keep themselves in the running for that top 4 position. I think today is realistically about these teams, Homeless, TBD, Sinister, putting themselves in the front running position for that top 4.
Definitely. This is really a telling moment for both of these teams. Homeless yet to find some strong results this season, and Onyxian, well, they've been undefeated so far. Let's see if they can keep up that trend going into the rest of the season. If Onyxian go flawless against all teams other than Wildcard and Fnatic, it's incredibly likely that they will make it to LAN, as Wildcard have already dropped maps to other teams.
Beautiful. I mean, I don't really need to speak to it, but we've already seen the Nomad and the Buck taken off for the attacking side. Pulse going as well. I feel like Pulse is quite a prevalent operator on this map. Generally, we see him being quite a nuisance underneath that bedroom position.
Yeah.
I do feel like this could be a nice, easy ban for Onyxian to kind of just work off the back of.
Yeah, in fact, both of Onyxian's bans are to do with vertical play. So Buck is a ban that we haven't seen consistently from Onyxian. More so, it's Mindfreak that, pardon me, TBD that always bans Buck, but we saw them ban TBD ban it on this map yesterday, and it looks like Onyxian are going with that same mentality of trying to deny that vertical play and prevent players from going below, opening up the floor and exposing anchors. And I guess likewise, preventing roamers from playing with the pulse, getting information from below, as you mentioned, very effective on this map. As for Homeless, they'll prevent that Nomad from being in play, which allows for a lot more flanking capability, and Onyxian in response will flex onto the gridlock and no doubt have at least 2 Claymores, likely probably 2 Claymores and there's a Fear and the Thatcher to help try and prevent those flanks.
One of the first times I've seen Thatcher make it through the ban phase, so I'm happy.
Is this actually ANZ?
Yeah, right. Like, are we still in the same world here? Well, we're going to go down to Kitchen to start with for Homeless, not opting to go to that second floor, which we see so prevalent for a lot of teams around the AVG statuary sites. So what are they going to bring to this? Are they trying to throw Onyxian off a little bit? Are they just more comfortable on Kitchen? Wait,
sure we saw Kitchen picked first yesterday. I think it was Fury. Might have been T.
I would definitely have to say.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was Kanga. I think
Kanga. That's
yeah.
it,
Kanga went straight to Kitchen.
Yeah, right on. So, look, Kitchen's a good bomb site. I talked about this yesterday. I really like the amount of versatility that you have on Kitchen from an attacking and defending perspective. You can try to hold a lot of map control on this site. You just have to make sure that the attackers can't find a shortcut onto the objective and take it away from you. Looks like a very roam-heavy presence from Homeless, and that's to be expected out of this team. We know Homeless to be a very aggressive team, probably the most aggressive in the ANZ region at the moment. They're really confident on their gunfights. They love to play a lot of mobility, and with that Nomad ban, it's just going to allow them that even more on this very roam-heavy objective that is Kitchen.
Now, honestly, cast your minds back to Six Masters for those of you that follow the ANZ region. I really do feel like Homeless had some really good results there, and that's probably echoing in toward Pro League if they can continue this form. It's obviously a lot of pressure to put on themselves so early on, but just keeping their head above water and continuing to breathe might be on the cards. Strider.
Well, Strider is playing tonight. I thought it was Juicy, but no, there you go. So we did see in the player lineups before the game, it said Juicy instead of Strider. Juicy is their sub, but Strider will be playing. I think I've always rated Strider very highly as a player. I think it's good that they've got their full roster playing tonight. He's on the castle, and the castle barricades were mostly placed upstairs to help with that heavy fortification of the top floor. The Mutant, the Mozzie is also going to prevent that top floor from being taken quite so easily, denying information from the Onyxian, but they've made some good progress thus far. There's a heavy roam from Homeless, and Onyxian haven't made any encounters so far. We know how much they are that slow, methodical team using their drones very effectively. They've just located, oh no, so they picked up the diffuser, so I guess they're trying to suss out what their push is so far. Taken top floor without too much resistance. Homeless decided to back off of it, but they still have that horizontal roam in towards oh, hello.
Yep.
Geo finds the first kill. Strider tries to flank up the red stairs, and despite the lack of a Nomad, Geo's going to shut it down.
That's right. Straight into action, and that's a nice start for Onyxian. For those of you that weren't watching yesterday or haven't watched too much of Onyxian, they are extremely methodical on all of their approaches on the attacking side, using full well the time that they have, 3 minutes plus the prep phase as well. So you're probably more than likely going to see these rounds come down to the wire. Legion at the moment knows exactly where that player is, stuck in between a rock and a hard place. The second he moves off, he might be caught out by the feet there. Fast just can't get enough of the line.
You can see they're trying to hunt this player, the smoke inside, the mute. And they eventually do. It's God Legion finds him, I believe, holding that angle from above. Or maybe he rotated into Master, difficult to tell. And that's 2 players down for Homeless. Now, they still have a heavy presence on the bomb site, but Onyxian, this numbers advantage will really help them when they make their collapse onto the bomb site. 22 seconds.
Geo coming down the southern side stairs now. Cynics getting a little bit more antsy coming from the outer side. Haywood's going to be able to find one now. They're going to try to explode, and it's going to work an absolute charm. Homeless completely shut out. It didn't even look like they had an inkling as to what was going on.
Onyxian, as always, very strong on their attacking half. This is something we've seen from Onyxian. We've talked about recently, the way that they play methodically, their droning. So good, and it may take them a while to make that first move, but they come out so strongly when they finally do, and that's changed from the Onyxian of times past where their attacks just weren't as strong. They've really tightened up their roles, their information gathering. God Legion and Vast really strong on those entries. Geo covering that flank helped perfectly get the opening kill, and once again, Onyxian, they played Fury yesterday. They countered their aggression. They got a lot of rounds off of it because of that. And here they're playing yet another aggressive team from ANZ and Onyxian. It just seems to be run-of-the-mill for them.
One of the things that we've come to know from Onyxian is almost this tunnel vision that they get on certain plays. Now, you saw that directly underneath Bedroom then, just trying to lock that one player in from moving across from the small uprising that there was there. So Onyxian had this yesterday where we were kind of criticizing them for it for a short while, but one thing that you have to kind of give them credit for is they do stick to their guns. If that's what they're going to do, if that's the play they're making, they will invest to make sure that that happens.
And because Onyxian, they get really focused on specific players that they think they can kill, and then they focus in and cut off those rotations. If the players, the defenders, then start moving, it's very likely they'll be taken out, as Onyxian are ready for that. Whereas if the defenders play very passively, it'll take Onyxian a lot longer to kill them. They're going to have to rotate over some utility, use a grenade, make an entry, and that's when the defenders can start to refrag, start to move around that. So in some ways, I think that the key to really taking the fight to Onyxian is actually not giving them early engagements. And Stig's fortune. Oh, no! That's nasty! Well, you don't see that every day of the week, but good night, God Legion, and the best fragger of Onyxian's off the board, thanks to Stigs.
Yeah, Sophia, well, that's going to have absolutely zero impact in the remainder of this round. Nicely. I mean, look, like you said earlier, Dev, this is, the aggression is what we have come to know, and I do want to say love from Homeless. And once again, they're giving them absolutely nothing. This time, it's Strider, and he will back away as well.
And that was hollow side, not even an ACOG for Strider. Very risky play, taking such an aggressive angle on such a slow operator, such an important utility operator, but he doesn't care. That's just Homeless for you.
Definitely starting off with a bang here.
And that's the two fraggers for Onyxian too.
You beat me to it. Both the heavy fraggers that we see generally opening the rounds up, changing the game, changing the rounds for Onyxian, just completely gone. Now we're going to see Cynics left. Haven't really made too much of a move just as of yet, but they will start to enclose toward the bathroom position. Vertical play not going to pay off this time.
But as of yet for Cynics, just subbing in as the coach for Onyxian. Now Homeless, they're in a strong position. Onyxian trying to open up this main wall. Flashbang goes over the top. Not sure whether Dino denied any of those Hibana pellets, but there is a prone hole that can be utilized by Onyxian. Dino may well play aggressively off this castle barricade. He has the numbers advantage. The Cynics may get taken advantage of here. If Dino decides to peek it, he does. He's going to retake Master on the back of it. And now it's a 1 versus 5 for poor Red. You can find the first one, but the second one's liable to retrade him. And there you go, Homeless. A very convincing round on Statuary.
Couldn't argue that whatsoever. And this is, the double-edged sword of aggression, Dev. Sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it is just like right there. Had Stigs have fallen, sure, it's not the most impactful of operators, but just hitting this shot, that's just tilts, right? That is a tilting moment for Onyxian, especially when they see there was no clear line of sight straight through.
Yeah, Homeless. Look, we can be critical of them when their aggression doesn't pay off, and we can praise them when they do find those kills off the aggression. But the real question is consistency. Rainbow Six, it's about winning those 7 rounds. It's a numbers game. You have to make the percentage play. And well, Homeless, they played really aggressive one round. It didn't work. They played really aggressive another round. It did work. The question is, at what point is the scale going to tip, and we're starting to see maybe this will tilt towards Homeless, or maybe it'll tilt against them. That's the scary moment for aggressive players.
I think when we're talking about a team like Onyxian and a team like Homeless, you see two polar opposite kind of play styles. That's not to say that we don't see Onyxian roaming and going for the aggressive peaks. They do their fair share of that. However, when you look at the attacking side of Onyxian, I really do feel like they've been able to get this down pat over the past season. And it has this feel to it where their due diligence is done every single round. Their droning is just phenomenal. Their intel is incredible. And it just seems, obviously we don't get to hear the comms, like it is very well structured in that sense.
Yes, and one thing to keep in mind is Onyxian are missing Digital, which is one of their really strong players. He's a great fragger, but he also plays a supportive role to some degree, a flex support role. So missing that, it may be that little bit of teeth that Onyxian need on top of their 2 key fraggers to take the fight to Homeless. But I think it's really going to be telling just as these rounds continue to pan out, will Homeless keep playing hyper-aggressive? Because, look, it's not going to work every time. And I think that it's going to be slanted against them. It's not going to work most of the time. Heavy roam, 3 players downstairs. It's crazy.
Tell you, there's only one way to find out whether Homeless can actually keep this kind of momentum up on the aggression, especially on the defensive side rather. Stig's just still trying to hold that line down, and I don't know whether it's going to be contested. Red now getting a little bit closer. Vast might actually be able to swing here if they can continue to put the pressure on. Stigs is, I believe that was a run out then, was it? Is that outside of the window?
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure where that body fell.
Yeah, he just jumped straight out of the window and Sinix was watching it. So it's once again us seeing an aggressive play not working out for Homeless. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Resetting now, Homeless, they've still got that roam, but look at how good the information is. They're going to know exactly where the player is, but that is a huge oversight from Red. Tunnel vision straight down in toward the stairs. It's a free kill for Geo, who was pre-prepped with that drone, and it's looking much better for Onyxian as they start to take somewhat more control.
That said, the 2 picks we did have Homeless find early really puts Onyxian in a more difficult position. Strider's so low on HP. Oh, God Legion's going to find Hayward as the Valkyrie player. Now, the cams will still likely be in play. Onyxian don't have... Oh, come on. Really? Strider's taken out as well. This has really gone down the toilet for Homeless. Onyxian in a perfect position to win this round. Arlo needs to deny plant. Vast is going to get it down. Is anyone watching? There was a drone watching for it and a player involved, but Arlo wins that gunfight somehow. 1 versus 2. This is possible.
He's going to go ahead and isolate that 1v1 as well. Had he hit that, it could have been on like Donkey Kong. Instead, he's going to have to make a decision here. Does he go to push the individual? Or does he continue to hold? Just spraying and praying. Not whether he's going to be able to find too much here. He's fallen away back off the side. And Arlo is just chasing tails at this point. There is little time remaining. And each second that ticks further, the pressure's put on even further. But Onyxian have done an incredible job of bringing that back. Well, not even bringing that back, actually just stamping that out.
Yeah, and there was a moment where it looked like Homeless got back in the round. They found 2 cheeky kills from the anchors peeking quite aggressively, but funnily enough, from Onyxian, it's the 2 guys who died first the previous round, the 2 fraggers, the 2 entries that we've talked about, primary entry God Legion, secondary entry Vast, who managed to come out and clutch that round in the 2v3. Sorry, it was a 2v1. But, I mean, you can lose those. And Arlo, yes, you could see his blood was fired up after he got that killed onto Geo. And I really have to commend Vast and God Legion for playing hyper-passive in that position. They have a lot of information gathering. I assume there was a drone on or near the diffuser, maybe just for sound calls even. And both Vast and God Legion were too far away to try to refrag, so they know that each of them just had to delay as much time as possible. They played that perfectly. Didn't really give Dino an opportunity to clutch.
And, I mean, in any circumstance, that is the good position, right? But especially against Homeless, where you know each individual on Homeless is capable of actually winning those 1v3s, because it is momentum, right? Once you find that first kill, if you can find the second consecutively and with a short period of time, I mean, the world's your oyster at that point. And I think we've all been there, right? We've all been there where the blood starts rushing, like you were saying. And just sometimes things happen, sometimes things click. So all credit to Onyxian, as Homeless will be re-attempting AVG. Might have
wow. Is that... Sorry.
That's on the outside, is it?
God Legion, you have the nuttiest drone spot if that is inside.
Is that on the inside of the curtain?
It's got to be outside. Not sure. Oh well, it was either inside, like on the curtain, or it was outside on the balcony. Outside on the balcony is not a big deal, but
it did look like they were shooting at it though. So
I think they were just pre-firing, looking for drones.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that was cool.
Oh.
Aggressive peek once again. Strider At the very least, it'll delay a little bit of time, but I don't think Onyxian's going to get phased by that. Look at how much these players are still peeking aggressively. Strider out the main window. The study balcony. Geo, I think he's looking for players jumping on their cameras maybe, as well as other utility like the Mozzie Pests. And Stigs finds that first kill. God Legion down again.
Jesus.
Look at the aggressive peaks once again, and it pans out this time. It looks like it can absolutely go either way on these entries. Either we see God Legion or Vast get picked early, or we see Stigs or one of these other players make an aggressive play and it doesn't work.
Feels like it has been, you know, almost the 1-for-1 at this point in terms of success. So maybe this is the one where it starts to swing back for Homeless, and Stigs starting off on that right foot down toward Red Stairs. He's got a nice position to just hold these players at bay. You know full well that Onyxian are going to go ahead and continue to drone this out. You're going to see that as well.
There's a nice spot for a camera. I'm not sure whether that was a Valcam or a Mozzie drone, but Geo's likely to find it. He was checking for cameras. And there you go. That camera I was talking about enables Dino to pull off a C4 onto Vast. And the two guys who clutched the last round, the two entries for Onyxian down on the ground. Good trade there from Gozo. Not really a trade, but he does find that. You can see Homeless are reaching to try and get him back. But he's safe for now.
They do know that there's one underneath now, so if they had decided to, they might have been able to put a little bit more pressure onto site. Obviously, Onyxian are prepared for that. Haywood's still trying to make a decision on whether he wants to go up or just stick around for a moment longer. The longer he stays there, the more pressure is on Onyxian, because they're not making the move right now. They're still trying to find an entrance point here. They're still trying to find the opening. Haywood might walk into this C4. No, instead he's going to be able to find Red. Eventually, he walks into the pre-prepped C4, but it's too little too late, Dev. It's all under Cynics.
Damn, and that's another aggressive angle held for Dino. A 3K at least on the round. Homeless, every time there is a doorway, they've got someone holding a pixel tight angle onto it. That's how Homeless do their defenses, and they get so many picks that way.
Yep.
So many times they're just winning these angles because they're, instead of sitting on the bomb site in a safe position, they sit aggressively on the bomb site or aggressively near one of these areas, and Onyxian's trying to roam clear and hold a tight angle.
Now, one thing that has completely changed from yesterday's player style from Onyxian is the ability to claw back and around where they've been down. So far, I believe every round that Homeless have started out on the right trot, they've been able to successfully take.
Well, yeah, you're right. The two times that Onyxian's got the opening kill, round 1 and 3, they won both of those rounds, and the two rounds that Homeless found the opening kill, Homeless won the round. So you're exactly right on that one.
And this is something that we spoke to Vast about yesterday, I believe, when we were having the interview with him, which was how they're able to stay so composed and ensure that they trade out efficiently and come back into it without really putting too much pressure on themselves. So obviously, right now, Homeless, they've got somewhat of a number picked. However, it is still very early days, only 4 rounds in. We are going to be heading back toward Trophy. Homeless have definitely started off very, very comfortably, I must say. Their aggression hasn't been... I feel like it hasn't been squandered as much as what I may have thought, especially with the side of Onyxian. That's a cheeky little drone.
So it looks like a lot of these rounds are hinging on how these entries from Onyxian can play, and whether the aggressive peaks from Homeless are finding those first kills in the round. Destroying the glass there is Haywood, so we'll get a bit more of an audio signal of anyone rappelling on that window. So the pressure is really on Vast and God Legion, I think. And also the droners for Onyxian to make sure that they're not falsely calling something clear, and God Legion or Vast getting ahead of themselves. But the pressure is really on those entries not to die first up.
Well, you could see as well, just as that prep phase finished, that Vast was obviously watching straight through the drone on the northern side of the building, watching those rotates from the first floor and around. So as they make their way in, they should know a relative term about how clear this bottom floor is. Obviously, Dino still pretty hungry to try and find something. Onyxian not in a position to capitalize on it just yet, but Vast is secondary droning, and Dino will just back away for now. Probably one of the first times we've actually been able to see Homeless pull out of a fight and disengage completely.
looks like for the statue defense, it's interesting. Onyxian kind of changing their mentality a little bit. Instead of going for a map clear, which they know that they lose a lot of players when they go for a map clear, so instead they're deciding to play very much focused. Oh, Bandit Battery just got down in time. They're playing a very much objective focus, just trying to hard hit the objective. Now God Legion really needs to win this fight. It makes so much difference, but he doesn't. Hayward gets the better of him. And we know how much that makes a difference in these rounds for Onyxian when they lose the opening engagement.
God Legion, I believe, coming on almost 3 times now. 2 times, 3 times?
3 times.
3 times that he's fallen in that opening engagement. Not something that we saw yesterday, technically, but definitely you can see Homeless starting to feel a little bit more comfortable here. Hayward with complete control of Astronomy. They now have to re-drone it after already dropping 2 drones. The economy is not looking too good on that side of things. Dino as well has a very direct line through and can pre-fire that to his delight. Cynics is going to hold a little bit deeper though. And they're just going to wait for this timing. It's not coming though. Onyxian are getting caught out.
Fast does claw it back somewhat though. You know, Arlo, Red's going to jump on in, 3-on-3. There's just 20 seconds left and Vast has made another good entry. Someone behind him right now, he's going to get caught off. And 6 for 2!
No!
Can there be the 3K to clutch the round? Indeed, Homeless go up with 3 rounds on their defense.
Wow, Stiggs, what a way. A 3K to ensure that one. I mean, again, that was one of those rounds where things were looking like Onyxian were back in it. They dropped the first 2 opening kills, or rather opening deaths if you want to say it like that, but then clawed it back to a 3v3. All of a sudden, it looked incredibly good. But Stiggs?
Yeah, it was Stiggs for 3. I thought it was, usually it was Strider playing that role, but I'm pretty sure it was Stiggs on the Maestro that round.
I can't even remember now. I saw the rehost and I was like, right, I got to think of something different now.
It was Stiggs, I'm pretty sure. If not, I completely ruined that clip.
No, you definitely said the right name. You definitely said the right name. But I don't mind the rehosts when they're coming in toward like the halfway point, because
we've got a lot to talk about already.
Yeah, right. Like we actually have some volume that we can go through, a bit of depth, because so far Homeless, that is really the first round that we haven't seen Homeless aggressive.
Yeah, I guess you're kind of right on that. They really, the main focus of that defense was just they played aggressive on the roam, but because Onyxian didn't push that aggression wasn't like actualized. So what we really saw was Onyxian decided to hard hit site, open up the main wall, and Homeless were just playing the utility game, going for the bandit trick. And then it was when Onyxian tried to get aggressive, it was God Legion peeking into Astro, and Homeless won that fight. Homeless weren't peeking over aggressive. That's just how you hold Astro, trying to win that gunfight. So yeah, you're right. They weren't getting super aggressive. They weren't trying to peek into Master, which would have been unwise. But they just won the first engagements, and they had some good utility game to back it up.
So far, it does follow, rather. I just stuttered for no reason then. That was such a clean... Yeah, it really does. I don't think anyone at home realizes like how easy it is to stutter. Like you try to reiterate your point and it takes off on its own.
Sorry, I'll forgive you, Rob.
No, but I do see how impactful these opening kills have been for Homeless. You know, it has been God Legion that has fallen every time that Homeless have taken the round.
Exactly, it's a pretty damning stat, really. The 3 times that we've seen Homeless get the first pick, coincidentally, it's always onto God Legion. Yeah. Those are the 3 rounds that they've won. The 2 times that they lost a player first, once it was Strider, once it was Stiggs, those are the 2 rounds that they've lost. Case closed. Yeah. Now, we have a fairly small sample size of 5 rounds. They're not talking that this is the whole game so far. And funnily enough, yesterday when we were talking about the Kanga game, it was often the opposite. Whoever got the opening kill would then lose the round. Yes. And we saw teams really good at clawing back. But no, for both of these teams, it's a bit of a bloodbath. And as soon as one has the numbers advantage, that tends to spiral into the whole round.
I want to see what happens when Onyxian hits the defensive side. Because obviously, for Homeless right now, bar that round there where I think that straps changed a little bit more and they had a more direct kind of sit and hold and wait, and sure they were still roaming, but it wasn't anywhere near as aggressive as what we've seen. I will find it interesting to see how Homeless take their attacking sides, whether it's going to continue with this aggressive 1v1 style duels, because for the most part, I want to say that every time I've seen Homeless take an engagement, there's been no trade potential.
Yeah, you're not wrong, actually. In fact, I think it was the first round that they won, where they got the first 3 kills and it was a near flawless round or something.
Yeah.
All of those 3 kills that they got right at the start of the round were all 1v1s with no trade potential. At least it didn't look like there was trade potential from where we were watching.
Yeah, of course. That's right off camera, right?
I hate to say a dismissive statement that then a team's not going to be happy with because I didn't see something that was happening, which is fair enough. You know, these teams work really hard and you don't want to discredit them, but it is our job to be analytical. And so, I mean, that is something that we have noticed. And there have been rounds where Homeless go for the opening engagement, lose it, and there's no trade. Because they're not playing close to each other. So that can be problematic. But that said, they still are in the advantage, up 3-2. And I've started already thinking, because this is such an interesting game, I've already started thinking about what I'm going to start asking the guys after the match, because we get to talk to both of the winner and the loser of this game after the 2 best of ones. And for Stigs, or for Homeless, I'm kind of interested in knowing the philosophy here. If the opening kill or the opening death is really dictating the round, does your focus become trying to identify when to stop playing aggressive so that you don't become the opening death? Or do you go for a different train of thought and focus your effort on trying to figure out what is the way that we can ensure we will get the opening kill and not be the opening death? So do you put your focus into trying to determine when to stop the aggression? Or do you put your focus into ensuring that you're going to make a play that's going to work?
Yeah, it's doubling down on what you know, right?
Do you double down, or do you back up?
Yeah, and it is a question that you do have to find yourself asking. I feel like Onyxian are one of those teams where I can almost confidently say now they double down on what they want to do, right?
100%.
They don't, like, if they see something and they see an opportunity, they're like, we're going for this Hail Mary. I mean, we saw it in rounds before where Red had already had a pre-droned area, literally just went to run down red stairs to take the straight up engagement, and someone's just watching the cross. It's, you know, it does come back to haunt you. However, we've already seen it work in this matchup, so it's I'm not going to use the double-edged sword analogy again, but it does go both ways.
Yeah. So moving into this next round, I want to talk about the 6 picks for a second. So getting the gridlock instead of the IQ is an interesting one, because we know that Homeless are a very mobile team. They try to go for flanks, and the flanks have only worked a couple times. They banned Homeless, that is, banned Nomad, and so that's why you'll see Onyxian using the gridlock as a substitute. But the IQ, losing that IQ means that the cameras, the information gathered by Homeless is going to be very difficult to get rid of. Fortunately for Onyxian, there's no Valkyrie picked by Homeless, and I think that's the reason they got off the IQ. We've seen C4s through the floor, and we've seen aggressive plays on Homeless, no doubt enabled by that information game. So I think this is the right choice for Onyxian. They'll get the gridlock instead and emphasize their flank watch rather than their information denial.
Definitely be how much impact it's going to have will be interesting to see, because right now we're seeing pretty much a very similar setup to how Homeless approached that first round. Seeing, of course, Castle being brought upstairs, just ensuring that it's doubled down, a little bit more support.
Yeah, and this is what Homeless did last round. They tried to hide the fact that they were doing the same strat with the Castle on Kitchen by faking out a Goyo, but I think Onyxian saw through that pretty easily.
Yep.
And yeah, Homeless clearly didn't have any intention of actually sticking the Goyo. It was just trying to hide the Castle, which I think Onyxian, if they'd done their VODs, not that there are many VODs of this map, but yeah, it's pretty typical for Homeless to bring Castle on this site.
I mean, we definitely saw something interesting with the Goyo yesterday from, I believe, was it TBD, I want to say?
Yeah.
Where they had the 2 back-to-back, ensuring that they couldn't be shot from either way. It was actually a very interesting way of changing it. So, and they've actually gotten in there with pretty decent timing there, James.
And just have a look at that flank watch. That was 3 different pieces of flank watch. There was a Claymore, a drone, and a track stinger. I love that. And that's Onyxian just making sure they're not going to get flanked from that side. They've put a lot of effort into taking that ground on the south side, I think it is, top floor, and they're not going to lose it.
They definitely didn't waste time either. A minute is all it took for them to be able to achieve that. So now with that, they can start to make a bit more of a clearer decision. They now need to focus their attention elsewhere, take the small bit of space that Homeless have made for themselves.
Oh, hello.
Taking it away. That is an angle and a half.
Wow, surely there's a Mozzie drone up there that's given all of that information. But Red going down, he's one of the primary droners for Onyxian, primary support players. That's really good for Homeless. And there's such a wild roam here that they have enacted. Remember last time, This site was taken for Homeless. They lost the round, and the first kill they made was that they lost was an aggressive play up red stairs. Now it looks like the tables may have turned, and Homeless might be able to rectify these mistakes.
We'll be approaching that southern side of the building. Dino with another C4. That's twice we've been able to see a successful C4 about halfway through the round. So that is definitely a huge game in terms of info for Homeless. And now with the double man advantage, they've taken down one of the top fraggers, one of those entry players in God Legion. And now just have to focus their attention across to the remaining 3 on Onyxian. They are starting to make a bit more leeway across toward the site, but I feel like they've lost quite a lot at this point.
Yeah, there's still so many roamers up for Homeless. Significantly in the numbers advantage means they'll be favored. If Onyxian attempts an entry, Homeless have enough players to stack up those refrags and win the situation. But we do have an entry onto the bomb site enabled. Oh, and Cynic scared off. 2 players though inside, and Cynic is going to get his plant down fast. It's all on him to cover this. And a C4 goes out, but it misses. Nice attempt there, but Diffuser goes down. Cynic immediately gets taken out, but that's too late for Strider, and Geo piles on as well. 2 versus 4 in the post plant. We're going to have to rely on Geo and Vast.
Got somewhat of a crossfire actually preset. If he'd been able to hit that, it might have been doable, but jeez, that was a really nice attempt from Onyxian. From where they were to how they got there, I mean, Homeless could have been in a little bit more trouble had Cynics have been able to get in a bit more of a post-plant position.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There realistically was only one person in a viable post-plant position for Onyxian, that was Vast. And he was up against 4 players, I think. Oh, sorry, Geo was alive too. I forgot about Geo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was a bit caught off guard. He was trying to take a long angle, and then someone ducked directly underneath his crosshair. And the thing there is, Onyxian, they really well figured out how to get into the bomb site and exercise the plant. That's great. The problem was, because they'd lost those 2 opening engagements without refragging, Homeless had the numbers to just keep throwing bodies at Onyxian in the post plant. And there were some trades back and forth. Geo found a kill, I think Vast found one too. It didn't matter at the end of the day because Homeless had enough numbers to just win out that game of attrition.
And that intel just so early on from Homeless was just so crucial. I mean,
and it was the only intel they could possibly have was Mozzie, and potentially bulletproof cameras. And I'm not sure if there might have been a Legion potentially in play, but that's not as substantial. It's not like you've got a Valkyrie or an Echo that you could really use off-site. And so it makes me wonder, if Onyxian had brought that IQ instead of the gridlock, maybe that would have allowed them to counter that information gathering and they wouldn't have lost so many of those picks early.
And again, you look at the flip side of it and you think about the roamers that Homeless had just kind of freely running around. Had those traps not have been in place,
they didn't need to flank. They could
not
have
at all.
If that's the question. If the gridlock wasn't in play, maybe Homeless would have played more flank potential.
Yes.
But Onyxian, they tripled down on their flanks, particularly on the study side stairs. They had a drone, a claymore, and a gridlock track stinger. If the gridlock wasn't there and you just had the claymore and the drone, maybe that would have been enough.
Yeah.
Maybe not. It's difficult to know.
We can move on from that now as we are starting well and truly into the action phase here in the second half. This will be a bit of a telling tale for Onyxian. One of their preferred sites, and AVG Vast has made his way downstairs and believe relatively undetected. Strider droning out up top. He might be able to lead them on a bit of a wild goose chase.
Yeah, so a lot of really fast entries for Homeless. This is what we know and love about Homeless. They make really good time on their entries, not only when they're playing attack on playing defense. Sorry, that they on their attack as well. They get in the building really fast, live drone their entries in, and the entries they have no reserve. They're fully confident just getting the building.
Still need to be cautious of Vast's position as well. He is deep on that south side of the building, sorry. And he could just buy a fair bit of time.
Attackers drop the diffuser.
He's not needed to, he hasn't been called upon realistically to make any sort of play. Homeless are edging quite close, however.
And it's a map control take for them. They're going to try and go from this vault side into Aviator, and Onyxian, at least last time we saw, they still have that default cam up on the southeast side, which means they'll be able to see anyone on the study balcony. So that's a really good help to Onyxian. If Homeless rotate for the study balcony attack, Onyxian will know about it. But at the moment, it looks like it's mainly just force from this north side.
Time to ring some in.
Looks like it is going to be the free opening there. Flash to ensure anyone on the other side doesn't have the free access to come through. Strider's going to take point of contact here. He will be able to take down Red and scot-free as well. Now, Onyxian, they're required to make some sort of play. You've got Vast coming from underneath there. He's been able to spot out one. He's going to have the free kill as well. There goes the diffuser. Now they're going to have to go into kind of recovery mode at this point. But the trades are so nice from God Legion. He'll find two. Dino now making more leeway on toward the site. Strider coming back around to 90. They've picked up the diffuser, but it looks like Onyxian have locked this down. And that they have. They'll take their first offensive side. And very strategically as well.
And you know what, Rob? That is the very first round in this match where Homeless got the opening kill and Onyxian won the round. The very, very first time that we have seen the team get the opening kill, lose the round.
That's a damning stat, to be honest, when you think about it. 6 out of 7 rounds, 6 of them have gone the way of the opening kill.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I've got to credit a couple of things there from Onyxian. A lot of them were quite separate. So Vast pre-opened holes. I don't know whether he opened those holes underneath the vault thermite wall or whether that was opened by the attackers, but those opened holes allowed him to get that kill onto Arlo right at the start. But on top of that, Onyxian just really held their ground well on the bomb site. I think God Legion found 2 playing from the study side, and it's like we were saying before, God Legion was allowed to play in study because Homeless didn't try to pressure from the study balcony. If Homeless did try to pressure from the study balcony, Onyxian would have known about it because of that default camera.
Yeah. So
Onyxian saw what Homeless weren't doing and made sure that that enabled them to take more ground and use more of the map, and it worked perfectly for them.
Well, we'll see whether Onyxian are going to play a similar roam game to Homeless now. The only kind of information that we had on that prior was Vast obviously making his way down and buying time until absolutely needed. Like a wolf just hunted for it.
Like your analogies. As always,
5
Rob.
seconds left.
But I also like that Valkyrie camera.
Yeah, that was actually pretty nasty.
He could have just opened the drawer. Why didn't he just open the drawer?
Cam in position.
Chuck the Valkyrie cam in there, close up the drawer. One thing I will say for Homeless is they had a really good flank watch. It was really challenging for Vast not to get caught off guard, and I'm actually surprised he didn't. If he had run through a red hallway underneath Statuary at all, then Homeless are watching it with at least 2 people. So I really like that from Onyxian, from both teams actually. Homeless, really good flank watch, but Onyxian managed to dodge it just perfectly.
Well, will God Legion try to buy time across toward Aviator at the moment? It looks like he'll stick around for a moment longer.
He was watching his rotation from
Attackers
the
have located a bomb.
Astro window, just waiting for someone to walk past, I guess. He won't cut off that rotation very strongly. Ooh, Strider missed drones the player in landing. Wow, that's a huge mistake. And then the drone gets taken out. Cynics finds that first kill onto Dino, and look, this could be huge for God Legion.
Oh,
Misdroned, he hears the IQ. Now, this is a dangerous position. He could find Arlo. He goes for the knife. Now, there's another player peeking onto him. God Legion's good for 2. This man, you don't misdrone God Legion because he's going to take your money and leave you for dead.
It's so nasty, honestly. Oh, and the C4 from Vast underneath again. Strider left with it all to do. I want to say you can't count him out, but I would definitely be counting him out at this point. Yes, there's time on the clock. Yes, he still has an opportunity. Although Onyxian have well and truly earned their money in this round. He now has to be worried from astronomy stairs. If the second he moves in toward any site, he's just going to be absolutely collapsed upon.
He's looking for Valcams, finds that one. Not sure whether he was getting spotted. Probably was. In a 4v1, you almost always spot them just to annoy them. Hey, this is doable. But yeah, probably not going to happen. 13 seconds. 13 bullets. A lot of time, though. Takes out a bit of the utility. I like that. Barbed wire placed just far enough so it's very difficult to melee. That's completely underrated and something that you can use yourself in your own games. And he'll get taken out by Cynics at the end of the day. Very nice from Onyxian. And I don't want to fully attribute that to the missed drone, but you've got to say, God Legion took complete advantage of that. Strider's going to be kicking himself, and he probably won't even realize what happened until he goes back and watches the VOD.
Well, you wouldn't want to be brutal and say that that is the cause for the round. However, dropping 2 players that quickly,
It's huge.
it is absolutely massive, especially because Homeless just approached that round completely differently.
And also that also not only was it 2 kills. I'm like, oh yeah, we got more numbers than them now. It was also ground. It was the entire, I think it's the south side, the entire south side of the map that Homeless just spent the last minute and a half clearing and entering.
Yep.
And clearing utility and droning. And no, okay, you don't have that ground anymore. Both your players there are dead, and you don't have that ground. You're gonna have to redrone it
Attackers need to locate and
if you want to
defuse
take it. And of course,
bombs.
Homeless are not gonna try and retake that. It's not even. Not
No, no, thank you. Put your attention and divert it elsewheres. So, Onyxian with 2 very successful rounds on their defensive half so far. Homeless definitely looking to buck that trend, but it got to admit, both rounds so far have just been a lockout by all means.
Yeah, it's, that was much more dominant than the Aviator round for Onyxian, because the Aviator round, Homeless took a lot of ground, and Onyxian never took it back. They never took 90 back. They never took control of that north side of the map again.
Attackers are moving out to
But
locate a bomb.
they just really prevented Homeless from making any progress from there. These Valcrams are super good, super strong. Both of these teams' information gathering has been enabling aggressive plays. The Mozzie and the Valkyrie both. Homeless impressively did it on their defense in 1 round with no Valkyrie, just the Mozzie, and they still managed to get C4s to the 4. That was huge. And Onyxian playing very much information gathering, very much information denial. And Homeless need to make sure they have enough droners to get their entries in safely.
Once again, Vast is upstairs. I believe this time it's with God Legion.
Look at that beautiful skin on 416.
And just buying so much time and ensuring that that vertical play just becomes that much harder for Homeless, I think is going to be quite crucial at this point. If they're still worried about those roams happening, if they can hold them, if they can keep them at bay for long enough, they might buy enough time to keep Homeless I wanted to say raveled then. I don't know why. I don't know why. That's not even a word.
I don't know, man. Unraveled is a word. Can you ravel something? If you can unravel a mystery, can you ravel a mystery?
I don't
You
even
know what's a
man.
mystery
Just
to
move
me?
on.
What's a mystery to me is Homeless love their bullet holes. And Hayward, even on attack, you don't often see bullet holes on attack, mainly on defense.
Bomb
But,
located by
I mean,
attackers.
that's not a mystery. I just was looking for an excuse to transition. So that's okay.
Is that how bad it was?
Yeah, I mean, everyone loves to make lazy segues, and that's okay.
Lazy segues look like we were going to see someone.
Oh, there you
flank
go.
there. That's a bit cheeky.
Impact trick gets rid of the thermite charge, nice and easy. If stun grenade didn't prevent that from happening. You can see there's a lot of flanks prepped, as you were alluding to before, but Onyxian aren't actioning on them just yet.
Oh, the openings are going to be a little bit crucial here. It's 1-for-1 Arlo for God Legion, as they haven't been able to take a lot more control of the site, but at the very least they are putting a bit more pressure onto the defense. You can see those roamers now starting to fall back toward the side a little bit more. Geo can just hold the red hallway a little bit more. That's a really nice nade from Stiggs bouncing off the doorway. And now they're going to be able to come in a little bit harder. Vast trying to play as the gatekeeper.
Oh!
He'll find one. And now it's Homeless to try and make this work.
Stiggs taken out as well. Strider once again in a position where he has to clutch. We know he likes this 5.56. He's pretty damn good with it in the hollow side, but Onyxian are playing smart. They're not going to peek him. They'll bait him a little bit, but they're not only going to peek together. Really well played positions from Onyxian, and yeah, this is a tall order for Strider. Pre-firing around the corner, and he's just getting harassed right now. Geo actually is the one to get that kill. Lovely chemistry from Onyxian, all peeking in time, all hiding in time as well. Love it.
So how many were alive on that trophy one? on that
At the
previous
end,
round.
at the end of the stat tree, wasn't that the most dominant one? That was it was a 5v1 or a 4v1.
Yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was. So it turned out being a 4-0. I even think AVG finished 3-0 as well, didn't they? They had 3
Yeah.
players left.
And that was when they
Jeez.
lost 2 players right at the start too. So Aviator, that was the one where it went really poorly at the start for Onyxian, but they clawed it back. And Homeless, look, that's that kitchen attack. It wasn't everything it could have been. And it's a bit uncharacteristic of Homeless, really. We know they're aggressive on their defense, but the one thing that always set them apart, at least on specific maps, like Clubhouse for one, is Homeless just have so much confidence on their attack. And the entries are really, really good. And we just haven't quite seen that here on Villa as much.
Well, we've completely cycled through for Onyxian, obviously missing on the 4th, but this is successfully taking every bomb site they've been to now.
Yeah, it's great when you can go all to 3 bomb sites and win all 3. And it's a bit of a contrast. Homeless, when they were on the defensive half, they lost rounds 1 and 3. And then they had a winning streak of 3 at the end where they run all 3 bomb sites. And well, Onyxian have started strong. It looks like they could continue the trend, but Homeless might just take them a bit of time to warm up here on the attack as it did for them on the defense.
I could definitely see that.
Out to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Still, they have obviously a clear path on the direction that they're headed on this attacking side. Need the approach. Multiple coming from the eastern side. They will sweep north to south. Now, one point to note here is going to be Vast. He's in a very similar position. This time he will be droned out, though. This is something that we saw him do previously. And I'm not going to say it unraveled that play that came through from Homeless, but it certainly stunted the growth that they tried to accumulate.
Yeah, he's playing downstairs. I talked about last round how he wasn't pushed. Oh, okay, Red going for a really aggressive run out. So, and yeah, we have a default cam taken out. Good job, Homeless. I don't mean to be condescending, but a lot of Pro League teams miss default cams occasionally, and they can be impactful. Last time, Homeless didn't push Vast downstairs. They didn't try and flush him out, but they had a really good flank watch. It just wasn't enough though, because Vast evaded it really well. My question is, will they try to actually push him this time? And I have a feeling that's not going to be the case. This has actually been really slow for Homeless. We're talking about the team that last time managed to get inside the building with 2 entries, 3 entries even, within 40 seconds, and now it's over a minute 20 off the board, and it looks like they're looking for Vast downstairs. 2 or 3 players entering to hunt down the Mozzie, who's just gone back to bomb site. Wow.
Yep. And it's nicely done. Look at how much time he's burnt through. Homeless are so aware that that could be a problem, and they've doubled down to try and at least flush him back.
And Vast has just said, okay, I'm going to continue to play evasive. I'm going to open up a hatch so I can rotate downstairs if I want to, but I'm just going to sit and study. And now Homeless still haven't taken control of study. They've got 90, I think, but they haven't opened up the wall yet. And Geo also has an impact grenade to deny the thermite charge as Strider places it.
Almost going from bad to worse. It'll depend. How can Arlo support here? They're going to try to shut that down, and that's exactly what they're going to be able to do.
Dangerous here. Strider's going to try and open the floor instead. Now, it doesn't work quite so well as it only opens an... Oh, no, it doesn't even open the angle at all. No more thermite charges, no hard breach. And funnily enough, the irony of it is Geo didn't have an impact grenade left. Now Homeless, 40 seconds left, and they've made no progress.
This is going to have to come down to the wire for Homeless. They're just going to have to rush on site here and hope that they can hit their shots because there's no other option. It's exactly what they're going to do. Red's going to be able to hold strong. Haywood's going to try to come into support, but it's all too little too late for Homeless. They're getting ripped apart as they make their way into the side. Vast creeping under the smoke. God Legion will pick up too. And that will completely shut out Homeless. Onyxian playing it to a T.
The closest attack we've seen from Homeless was the first time they tried out attacking Aviator games, and the second time, it's just not the case. We're on match point for Onyxian at the moment, 6-4. Homeless only need to win 2 rounds to bring it back to a draw, but at this point, Onyxian flawless on their defense. It doesn't look like Homeless have much of an opportunity.
It has been stomped out in this second half. This has been a statement. I do want to add, this is something we saw last night with Onyxian and Fury on Clubhouse. In fact, where Onyxian in the second half went 5 rounds straight.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's look, we've seen it was Kango really struggled on their attacks. They didn't win a single attack, and now we're seeing the same from Homeless, which is funny because like I was saying earlier, I always thought Homeless was the team that had uncharacteristically aggressive and successful attacks, but it doesn't look like that's the case here.
No, and I think that comes into the play with Onyxian as well, is just how careful they are with everything that they do there. You could see how they were just waiting to utilize their utility. They weren't happy to let that roamer die. Vast, the second he spotted...
so good.
Dude, he wasted a full minute and a half before Homeless went. And they droned him as well. Strider had spotted him early, and yet because of the impact he had, regardless of whether it was 1 kill or 3 kills, the impact he had in that round, it echoed through. Homeless just wasted so much time.
And it's because Homeless, in some ways, Homeless had to make a decision. Do we go for our top clear and try to open up Vault Wall, or do we go below? And instead of, if they had done both at the same time, then Vast would have tried to probably been in a position where he's trying to shoot up through those holes in the floor, distracted, and he could have gotten hunted by one of the Homeless players. I think a better strategy for Homeless, instead of fully dedicating to clear Vast downstairs, go for your normal take. Send one guy downstairs to try to sneak up on Vast. Maybe have that player drone themselves there. You can have 4 players fully dedicating to that main push. And chances are that single player pushing Vast is going to catch him while he's trying to make a play, while he's distracted, looking up. And I feel like that would have been a more successful strategy for Homeless. But you can't blame them. They tried to focus on Vast, and Vast just played it really well.
I must admit, every round that I've seen so far on this defensive side, Vast has had quite a large impact, whether it has been the kill or whether just the wasting of time. This is very early.
Are they just going to try to repel into Astro? Indeed it is. They must have droned that it was clear. They used utility to prevent any kind of rotations and enable themselves to get inside, and now they have that control, but it's not enough. You need to take the bomb side as well, and Vast finds the first kill. The man's been on fire tonight. Hayward is down on the ground. He's not going to be able to get another one, but things are falling apart for Homeless so early in the round, and 3 people to take on the remaining 4 from Onyxian.
My God, this has been nothing but chaotic. They've been able to open that bedroom wall, I believe, with Strider. I think they've been able to manage that. We're not entirely sure just yet. They were obviously attempting to get that done. Now they're going to put a little bit more pressure across toward that trophy.
Oh, no!
What is that? Runs directly into the crossfire, into the one area where he's going to be watched the most. And Geo is going to be able to shut it out with a 2K in the end. Onyxian going flawless in their second half.
5 straight attacks for Onyxian. What a performance. Sorry, 5 straight defenses for Onyxian. Incredible stuff from the team that is currently second on the leaderboards in the Pro League, and may well, if they win their next game tonight, they may well be able to take first place in the Pro League over Fnatic.
And I think a really good point to add to the conversation